You know, I went on to get my bachelor's and my master's degree in music, but when I look at all the courses I took in college, they all had some merit, but my on-the-job training as a Navy musician is what I attribute to the fact that I was successful as a high school band director. I say that without reservation.
Sure. Kenny Malone said that to me yesterday. Kenny and I hadn't seen each other for years, so we must have hugged for 10 minutes out there. And before we could walk around the hall, he says, I think about the Navy every day. Yeah. He says, everything I learn there just helps me every day. So what you're saying is very well taken. So you other guys just go ahead and chime in whenever you get ready. And
well, I want to get on tape too what the other guys that didn't make a career out of the Navy, did when they.
Fine, that's the second part. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So you're right there. You're right on time.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, the leaving Corpus Christi, with Ben and I both had 2 sports cars, and I wasn't sure I ever wanted to leave Corpus Christi, to be honest with you. We had a lot of fun there. But I had to go, so when I left the military, my first thought was, now what do I do? I had no training, and there was just, I soon found out there weren't very many jobs out there, decent jobs. So I had told a friend of mine, I won't go over this too much, but he was that wanted to start a business in Japan, and I said, well, I'm going to go to work, and I'm coming back to Japan. For what reason, I don't know. And I was going to bring him $3,000. So the first thing I looked around for was a decent job, because I wanted to keep my word, and I wasn't attached at that time. So I got a job in a cement company, and just to give you an idea of how hard jobs were, I started 6 months before the jobs were supposed to open. I went back every day for 3 straight months until they finally said, well, just stop. We're tired of you coming in. We'll give you the damn job. So 6 months later, I walked in and I got my job, and it paid well. And I saved every penny I could. I remember I stayed in a boat shop where I actually went out into a creek, and I washed myself, and we didn't have any running water or electricity, so I had to go to bed kind of early, and I'd run up to the cement plant. I saved money like you couldn't believe. And it was good because I was the only available bachelor in this little town of maybe a population of 50 people. But anyway, I saved all this money, and decided I wanted to go to school, so I took all the tests to go to a university in Japan called Jochi University, from the extension of the University of Santa Clara. And at the time they had the Olympics in 1964. So at the time I had learned a little bit of Japanese before that, at least enough to be an interpreter. So I spent 3 months or so before and after the Olympics. And I worked for the Dentsu Advertising Agency, and we did a full-blown movie, but we did it on motorcycles. And so I hate the damn things, but I went up and down, and I thought I was going to be dead before I finished the filming. But my job was pretty simple. I'd go ahead and make all the arrangements ahead of time and pay the bills and take care of things like that. And if they had any hospital needs, I took care of the hospital needs. But anyway, we did the movie, and we came back. And anyway, I gave this friend the money, and did exactly what I said I would do, and went to school at Jochi University for about a year, I guess. And then I came back to the United States, met a nice young lady, and had some children. Now I was really in trouble. I got to raise children, and I got to go to school. So I figured, well, how in the heck got to do that? So I got a job driving trucks for an oil company that paid the most money that I could find. So I went to school at night, drove trucks for, I think it took me 6 years to get 8 years of college, I guess. It did pretty good on that. I had a great wife that she backed me up. She was a teacher, and we had the same goals and the same values and what have you. And so I had a friend of mine who had polio when he was very young, and he was very close to me. And his back was all torqued out and whatever, and they said he'd die when he was going to be 15, but he proved them all wrong. He was able to live to be 44. But anyway, he went and became a chemist, and with all of his problems that he had in life, and I just admired him because he never complained all of the time I knew this man. And I said, you know, I got to do something. I just felt like maybe my calling would be in something where I could give something to human beings or men or, you know, our society. And I decided I was going to be a teacher for handicapped individuals of any kind. It didn't matter to me. So I went back to school towards that goal, and the rest is history. I just retired 30 years of teaching special education, and the tie-in, the experience that I had with music was that I could go ahead and play songs and teach kids languages, because there's a lot of blockage and a lot of problems that kids have when it comes to communication. So what you can do is work out little stories through music, and what you do is you increase their language base. And I was able to do this, and I went out and did a lot of seminars on this with different people over the years, and I was very satisfied with that. I was never really a great musician for any, as we all know, but I used music and I applied it to the best way that I could, and I knew that I was getting something, and I wrote a little music book that helped me out with these kids. But anyway, I worked with every disability I can possibly work with, and right now I'm on the board of trustees for 2 residential homes, and the people that are in the homes were the students I had 40 years ago, and they still want me to bring my guitar once in a while and sing the same songs that I taught them 40 years ago.
That's terrific.
So my life has been very rich.
Yeah.
And I thank all of my friends that helped me through the rough part, which is the first part of our lives when we were only 20 years old, trying to figure out where firm ground is and what we're going to do with our lives.
It's tremendously meaningful.
Your $3,000 investment there.
The $3,000 investment, 6 months ago, I got a call from Los Angeles, and I went down. It was the guy I loaned that money to, as you recall, in the early part of the story. And he comes up and he said, Jimmy says, I have 156 people working for me and 6 laundry companies. He said, I got a present for you. He gave me $10,000 in $1 bills.
Oh.
I couldn't believe it. It's absolutely true.
Wow.
But the
A
hard part.
copy of this tape is going to IRS, of course.
Oh, yeah, thanks, John. I'll be very out into that for sure.
Well, that's terrific. Now, see, you guys really add to the group that I did last year, which was
Uniband before us.
Uniband before you guys that you relieved. And see, this makes a tremendous addition because those 8 guys are there and they told their stories pretty much like you have thus far, and it was neat. Now we must be back up to younger by now.
Well,
Maybe.
you realize that we really can't tell the stories we don't want to.
Yeah.
Well, that's another
Now
part
we're
of our
getting close to the truth.
now we get to our other part of our archive take. That'll be another time.
Well, after Yokosuka, I went to Charleston, South Carolina, and finished up my tour, my 4 years there. Went back and to the college that I just flunked out of and decided I changed my major. I'd started out in math and physics. Well, the easiest thing to do would be major in music now, so I'd been through the Navy School of Music, so I never practiced, didn't have to learn much of anything, just took the test, and I think I made it through. I became a music teacher. I taught for 3 years and really liked it somewhat, but I was indoors all the time and I really thought I wanted to do something else. So I used my GI Bill and got my commercial license as a pilot, commercial and instrument rating, and went to Miami of Ohio and got a master's degree in aerospace education. I got a commercial glider rating and was looking for a job somewhere. I went back to being a carpenter in between times. And my back was hurting one day, and I got a call from the University of Illinois asking if I'd like to be their glider instructor. So I said, yes, definitely, anything to quit this carpenter stuff. went to University of Illinois, and I taught gliders on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I taught airplanes on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Did that for 5 years, and then I got a chance to go to Iowa State University. I was the chief flight instructor there, taught there for about 18 years until they did away with the program. Also flew for the university, and I'm still flying today. I became the manager of a small airport in central Iowa, and that's about it. Well then, a couple of years ago, Jim came to see me. I took the summer off and went up to Alaska, and Jim came up, and I had a fantastic summer there where I flew a Cessna 206 and gave tourists a tour around Mount McKinley. That's very different from Iowa, let me tell you. So that's about it for me.
But see, the bottom line of that is we formed friendships that have lasted through the years from our association in the Navy.
Sure
And
have.
it's good for young kids to hear that today, and some will at some point hear some of these things. I don't know where or when, where this archive is going to be, what museums are going to be in, but our kids, grandkids, whatnot, will hear this, and they'll make a connection back there.
When I left, when these fellows left Japan, I stayed there because I was married, and so I stayed there. I was going to have a son right before I got out of the Navy, and I got an extension for 5 months. So I was in 4 years, 5 months. But Chief Weber kind of wanted me to ship over and go back to school as an instrument repairman. And I gave it some thought, but they decided to get out of the Navy first and try that, which I did. And I kind of wanted to come back in, but I don't know, I didn't. I started working. I didn't have as exciting life as these fellows. I started working at Oscar Mayer in a meat company, because my dad worked there. He's a carpenter. And I started working there and worked in the slaughtering department, which I hated. But I had a kind of a chance to get in the mechanical field. And I did, soon about a year after I started, I got in mechanical. I became a millwright as a welder, sheet metal man, and hydraulics and all that thing. I liked it very much. The sad thing in my life is that I gave up music after I got out of the Navy. And I guess I seen so many good musicians in the Navy, and I was so disappointed in myself that I wasn't better. So I just kind of put the instrument away. And then I started coming to these reunions, and I said, boy, I'm coming every year and I'm not participating. And I retired a couple years ago from Oscar Mayer, 41 years. And I decided that I was going to start practicing last summer, which I did. And I got a lot of practicing to do, but I was able to join in on some of these groups and play, and I really like it.
Now let me hold you for a second.
Sure.
When did you hear about the Navy Musicians Association? And
Oh, okay. I think it was Lyle Dameron, who was in my second band, called me on the phone once, and I could hardly remember the guy because I didn't know a lot of the second band that relieved us. Because I was married and living off base, so I didn't get to know him.
and tell me about that band.
The second band?
Yeah, what you can remember about that.
I just remember a lot of young guys that had different ideas.
We were the last unit band.
Yeah.
We were the last Yokosuka unit band. We were relieved man for man from people that came from other bands.
Okay,
So from
see-
that point forward, there were no more unit bands.
Okay, see, now it's starting to make this picture happen. Okay, super.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
So it was kind of a disappointment because I was in such a good band. A lot of disciplined people. And the second band was not disciplined. They were young. I don't know. I just didn't like it at all.
Mhm.
Of course, we lost a lot of good musicians. I went from playing Barry to lead alto, and I wasn't that new lead alto player. So I don't know. I just was kind of glad to get out, I guess. But I wish many times I'd stayed in a music program. You know, I missed it so much.
Yeah, a lot of people have said that,
Yeah.
and maybe they're right, maybe they're wrong. I mean,
No,
those.
no.
I did 22 and decided I didn't want to make it a career, so.
Yeah. 22 is a long time. But I'm sure glad that this reunion is here, and I really enjoy coming.
We need to keep this going, and we need to talk about it a lot. There's a lot of Navy people around, and there's so many we haven't touched base with yet.
Yeah.
And we'll get to them slowly but surely, but we have to not to get on another kick, but the strongest organ in our body is our tongue. And if we don't use it, people won't know a lot of things. So we have to open our mouths, you know. I'm going to get back to Ray there because well, you're on the second line, so talk to me.
Well, when I left Yoko, I went to back to San Diego.
Yeah.
And I went back to the Naval Training Center where I went through recruit training. I was there about 9 months, 10 months. My goal was to get a college degree, buy a house, and have a Thunderbird, then get married. Well, I was about the last 3 months that I was at Naval Training Center, I met my wife. I saw her, and there's an Italian expression, you get hit with a thunderbolt, and she hit me with a thunderbolt, and so we got married, and now I'm out of the Navy. I started working at General Astronautics in San Diego. I worked there for about a year, but I also joined the Musicians Union, so I was playing in the San Diego Charger Band, and had some connections playing around town. I had a rock and roll band for about a year, and did some recordings with Gary Puckett, who went on to national fame. And after about a year there, we were going to go on this Cavalcade of the Stars with Dick Clark, and then we picked up an agent. The agent decided that they didn't need me any longer. I was the leader of the band. I was the trumpet player, so he talked the band into asking me to depart. I did. The band fell apart, but I was really demoralized. Didn't know what I was going to do. My wife says, "You know, really, Ray," because I had taken some college courses, "you need to go back to school." So I did, and went through the community college district, and then from there I went to San Diego State, and from San Diego State I went to the University of Arizona, got my bachelor's and master's degree from there. Came back to San Diego and reestablished myself as a musician, and also started my teaching career at the school I graduated from, Mission Bay High School in San Diego, and stayed there 30 years and retired from there. Also picked up an acting career, so I did about 12 projects. I did the Lassie Show and Harriet Anderson's, and worked with Jane Seymour. Also made friends with William Shatner, and so I got into this horse show business, playing for horse shows, and got to direct some of William Shatner's productions. And then, so I now have 5 working bands, and in those working bands, I would say half the musicians I use are former Navy musicians. In my horse show orchestra, my trombonist is the former trombone player in this band, Gary Thompson. And my keyboard player, Jim Trader, is also a former Navy musician. Our drummer is a former Air Force musician, and my bass player is a former Marine musician. And so I'm also a part-time community college music professor currently, and music's my life. Other than church, I'm a Eucharistic minister for my church, which is the #1 thing in my life. Music is second. It's right there. And again, I just thank the music program for the opportunities it gave me to be a musician, and give me the opportunities to perform. I'm just forever grateful to the music program. It also gave me a home, because as I said before, when I was getting ready to graduate from high school, I was raised by my grandmother, and she was no longer with us, and I had to go somewhere, and the music program gave me a home, and gave me a craft, and gave me a tremendous love for music.
And you went out with this band, and you stated it so well before I started the recorder that you should say it again so that we will have this for posterity. This is Unit Band.
This is Confleet Axe Unit Band 182.
Gotcha.
From Yokosuka, Japan.
Okay. Now we kind of covered all of that, so you guys have got a lot of stuff to talk about. Go ahead and talk about it.
Do you have a pause control on that?
Okay, it's up to you guys. Go ahead. John was talking about you're a great bass drum player or something, but tell us about that.
Well, they were kidding me about being the bass drum. I hated playing the bass drum. Obviously.
Most piano players
did.
do. Yeah.
But right after we got to Japan, we left the School of Music, and they told us we were going to fly to Japan. We got out to San Francisco at TI, and it turned out that there was about 300 or 400 sailors out there, all of whom had to go to Japan, and they didn't have enough airplanes to take all these people. So eventually they ended up putting us on a troop transport, and I believe we single-handedly painted that entire ship on the way from San Francisco to Japan. So we ended up getting to Japan, the USS Towari. And
Attack cargo ship.
yeah. And so we ended up getting to Japan a little bit later than they anticipated. In fact, the band that we were leaving was pretty much had transferred. And Herb was waiting for us to show up, and we got there around Thanksgiving.
Yeah, November. Right.
Good memory. And so one of the first jobs we ever played, after we kind of got the band organized, we played on Christmas Day. We went to Tokyo and played for an orphan's Christmas party or something, as I recall. And Herb went on ahead, the chief went on ahead in his car, and the band came up on a bus. Well, he failed to tell us, or the word didn't trickle down, that we were supposed to bring drum slings so that we could march. So we show up at this job with all these other bands. The Army band was there, and the Air Force band, and God knows who else. In this huge gymnasium in Tokyo, the Crown Prince of Japan, who's the present Emperor of Japan, was there, and his wife. And Herb says, well, where are the drum slings? Well, we didn't bring the drum slings. Nobody told us to bring the drum slings. Oh, you should have brought them. So anyway, make a long story short, he worked out a deal that we'll march out onto the floor, kind of as best we can, and we'll perform 2 or 3 numbers, and then we'll march off. Well, the old bass drum stand that we had was held together with baling strips, or whatever they're called.
Strapping material.
Huh?
Strapping material.
Strapping, yeah. So you had to kind of wiggle the bass drum in to get it in there past the notches. So I told the chief, I said, just give me a second after you're done so that I can get the bass drum out of there so I can carry it off. And he said, okay, I'll do that. So we started playing. We played a Christmas song or something, and a couple of numbers, and I guess the last number we played was Anchors Away. So he gets done with the march, and it's like, dum ba da dum ba dum ba dum, forward march. And I'm standing there like an idiot with this bass drum, and I said, how do I get this bass drum out of here? And already the guys are laughing. Of course, the snare drummers just picked up their snare drum and they marched off. And the whole band is marching away from me, and I'm going. So I go underneath the stand, and I've got the stand like this, and I'm trying to get off the stage, and the cymbal's falling, and I'm catching the cymbal. And meanwhile, the band's laughing, and Herb's getting nervous. So we got up to where we had to go, and Herb gives this monumental command: forward, left flank, march! And some of the guys left flanked, and some of the guys did something else, and we all crashed into each other. But now he's underneath the microphones for the television. This is being broadcast live, and Herb's yelling, "Come on, you bunch of crummy bastards, quit laughing!" And he's swearing away, and we're laughing. And this was like one of our first jobs. And I said to myself, oh, this is going to be a very strange 2 years. And it was.
Gosh, it's just, when I saw you telling that, and I said, this has got to be good, and we got to get this on here, you know?
I got a story. I got a lot of stories. I remember them all. But the one that we still haven't figured out, so maybe Mr. Avery over here can fill us in on the details that we don't know about. We hadn't been there very long. We found out that when we got to Japan, that the Japanese people love musicians. And we found out that we were in fact celebrities. And I remember playing at the at the Tokyo Zoo and being mobbed after we did this concert. And we thought it was just absolutely great that they were asking for our autographs. It wasn't so funny when we were still there about 2 hours later signing autographs. And but anyway, one of the concerts was for this ship that had been a part of their victory, and it was a national monument.
You mean Mikasa?
Mikasa,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was the battleship that single-handedly won the Russo-Japanese War of 19 something.
So we oh, you remember now, don't you, Mr. Avery?
Wasn't sure which story we were gonna go to.
Most
Now I'm getting nervous.
So the story is that we were waiting at that site, and nothing was happening. So the chief leaves to go find out, where are we playing, because there's nobody there except our Navy bus. And around the ship there was a retaining wall, and of course below the retaining wall was the ocean. So while we're sitting on the bus, Mr. Avery says, I need some money. I want to go out in town tonight, and I'm broke, and I need some money. And so our trumpet player aboard Wolford says, well, how badly do you want the money? And he says, I've got to have money tonight. I got to get out to town tonight. And he says, well, would you do anything for the money? And Mr. Avery says, I'll do anything. He says, well, I'll take up a collection, which he did. And I forgot what the amount was, maybe 10, 15 bucks. And he says, but to get this money, you have to jump off that retaining wall into the ocean. And Avery here says, well, I don't know. And he says, well, you want the money? And he's dangling the money in the bus. I remember he's dangling money. Here's the money, Jim. You want it? Jump off the wall. So we all get off the bus. We walk over to the retaining wall, and he jumps up on, jumps on the wall. Now you have to remember, he's in his uniform. We're getting ready to perform. So he's walking up and down. He's walking up and down on the retaining wall, looking down at the water. Okay? And Wolford is saying, I got the money, jump, jump. Now see, all of us wanted to see this guy get in trouble, because whenever he got in trouble, he would talk his way out of it. He got in trouble for something. He goes in for captain's mast, finds out the captain likes fishing. He tells him what a great fisherman he is. And when he leaves, they're shaking hands.
It's called
So
a captain's
we
mast.
wanted this guy, we wanted to see if this guy could actually get in trouble and talk his way out of it. Okay, all right, so he's on the wall, and he's going back and forth on the wall. Not sure whether he's going to do it, and we're all going, jump, jump, Avery, jump. So finally the chief's coming across the lot there, and one of the guys says, Avery, if you're going to do it, you better do it now, because the chief is coming. Chief's coming across a lot, and he's wondering, what in the heck is this guy doing up on top of the retaining wall? And then all of a sudden, he jumps in. I'll never forget it. He disappeared, and his hat, you can just see his hat at the top of the water. Bloop! He goes all the way down, he comes out, and of course we have to fish him out. Well, the chief gets up there, and he is raging. You idiot! You idiot! You better get back to the barracks and change uniforms and get back here, or I'm going to court-martial you, and you better not be late for the concert. So he leaves. Okay, so
He had a motorcycle there, right?
yeah, James here could talk Japanese. So this is what we figured out. He hitched a ride. We know this much. He hitched a ride on the back of a Japanese citizen's scooter. He gets to Yoko. We don't know how he got past the Marine Guard, because they were tough, because he had a wet uniform. He got over to the barracks. We know that he borrowed a uniform from somebody in that barracks. Now here's the mystery. While he's gone, somebody comes up and says, oh, Chief, so sorry, so sorry. Concert not here. Concert at hall in town. So now we jump on the bus and we're so happy. Jim's gonna get it. He's finally gonna get in trouble. He won't be able to talk his way out of it. So we go to the concert site, which is in the middle of town, and we're on stage. The curtain is closed, and everybody's ready to go. And Avery's seat is right in the middle in the front because he's a clarinet player. And we're licking our chops. Oh, this is it. He's had it. Never make it. The curtain opens. As the curtain opens, he comes over and plops himself down as the baton comes down and plays the first note. He got back. Now I want to know, how did you know where we were? Because we were on the other side of town. We solved this mystery for us. How did you do it?
I was pretty tricky there, but I'm not sure exactly how I found the damn thing. I was pretty much worried about how to keep dry because I was still freezing to death.
You're not going to tell us.
No, I can't disclose, but I'm not even sure how I found it, but the important thing was I made the performance. That was the important thing.
Unsolved mystery.
But you know, there's one thing I was thinking. That chief, we can't say anything bad about him because he got me out of the brig so many times.
Oh, we know that.
I kept getting caught in different places I was not supposed to be in, and then chief would go down there and say, "We don't play unless you have Avery out of there." I had a revolving door out of the brig. I didn't like that brig either. And it used to tick him off. And then John would take the group out, and while you guys were out there raising the flag, he'd be down there bailing me out out of the brig. Oh, God. Life was tough in those days.
But you know, every band has got to have. It's almost like a requirement. Not that you signed up to be that person in this band, but every band has got to have a person that tests the mettle of its leader. And you apparently were that person in this band. I mean, that's what it sounds like to me.
But we had, being in Yoko at that time, prices were still high. But one of the things we could get when we could go out there on the beach to a tailor and get a tailor-made shirt for about $1.75. We could get complete suits for $20-25. Cashmere sport coats. I came back with a wardrobe with choke a horse, and that paid very much for it. But we did have somebody in the band that was way ahead of his time. I would say he was an innovator when it comes to designing clothes. This guy really had it together. He's a legend in Yoko right now. They still talk about his one-piece suit.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell him about your one-piece suit, John.
I read an article in some magazine that Miles Davis had gotten a coat made out of one piece of material, a sport coat made out of one piece of material. So I took this article down. We had a regular tailor, as most of us did. In my case, it was a guy named Tom Ondo. And he was right outside the gate, and he made beautiful clothes. So I took this article down to him, and he scratched his head, and he thought about it. And he finally came up with a way. He took one piece of material and made a sport coat. It had no seams here on the shoulders, and it was just kind of draped. It was kind of the combination of it looked like a what do they call them?
Kimono.
No, it might have got something. But anyway, I got this thing made. You remember this?
Yeah.
And I wore it about twice, and it looked so stupid. I never wore it again. And it went in the closet. I paid $20 for it. It looked ridiculous. I'm not wearing this thing. That was the end of that.
Just one piece suit.
One-piece suit.
It was made out of one piece of
Period.
cloth.
Yeah, just one piece. You had to see it.
I think
You
I ever
just had
saw
to
that.
see it.
But we did have a lot of nice clothes. We were all kind of lucky that when we went to Japan, because if we had been stationed in the States, it would have cost us twice as much to live. Over in Japan, we could buy a carton of cigarettes for $1. I don't know if that's a good thing anymore today, but some of us have had cancer. But and you can get a shot of Tory's whiskey for 50 yen, which was about 11 cents, and you could buy a
60
like
yen
Dutch
cap.
says, you could buy a suit for $25, and you could buy a tailor-made shirt for $2, and we lived pretty good for a couple of years as kids while we weren't making very much money, because we were only making $40, $50 a payday. But we were able to get through payday on a relatively small amount of money because we were living in Japan.
That's when it was 360 yen to the dollar.
That's right.
Yeah,
Now it's,
360 yen.
100 yen to the dollar, or something close to it.
Yeah, and of course the dollar is what
Yeah.
it used to be.
We didn't realize how fortunate we were to be stationed in Yoko. We're land-based. Our rehearsal hall was in the back of the Benny Decker Theater. That movie went on around 12 noon. So this was our typical routine in Yoko. You get up, maybe go have breakfast. At 7:45, the bus picks us up, takes us down to the gate for colors. We play colors at 8 o'clock. It lasts about 10 minutes. We do colors, and we do 1 or 2 marches. The bus takes us back to our headquarters, back to the band room. From 8:15 to 9 o'clock, we're free to do what we want. And then from 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock, 2 hours only, we would rehearse either square band with Chief Weber or big band with John. They had a sail club over there.
I was down at the Orchid Bar.
But it was a wonderful experience, and we had our drummer was a state tennis champion. Dick Grice taught us how to play tennis.
Professionals.
I think another thing you got to think about when we were in Japan there, every time we went somewhere, we had to get on a bus to go somewhere, and the traffic was terrible. So we spent 2-3 hours in the bus to go to a half-an-hour job. So
Well,
Maybe
that's
we
just
were
making it
working.
sound like we had every afternoon off, and we didn't have
No,
every afternoon off.
no.
We did a lot of traveling around Japan.
We did.
We went to Shimoda for the Black Festival. We went to Ito for the Will Adams Festival. We went to Nagano. We went to Kiryu. We played at schools. We played a lot of ceremonies. We were traveling all the
went to
time. We would
Tokyo
go
a
to
lot,
Tokyo,
department
Yokohama.
stores.
Well,
It was
speaking
great.
about
I mean,
traveling in a bus, we would go up to Tokyo, and of course it would be a lot of traffic there. And after the gig, they'd always feed us, and usually give us a lot of beer to drink. And then on the way back, they'd usually put a case of beer on the bus
right.
for us to take back. And we didn't want to be stopping every 5 minutes. The way these guys drank beer.
Been there, done
So they
that.
had a trap door at the back, which went down to the universal joint. And anytime guys had to relieve themselves, they just go right back there, you know. And I remember on a bright, sunshiny day going down the Ginza in Tokyo. There's this motorcycle. Yeah,
He
they
was,
can
bound,
edit
he was
it
going to
out.
get this on the tape.
Motorcycle driver right behind us with his he had his shield on and his bright sunshiny day, and he starts looking up around to see where it's ready to go. You can edit that if you want to.
No, I think that needs to really be in. It's clear enough, sure.
We did a lot of stuff in Japan. We traveled around. We played a lot of concerts.
So when the band was starting to wind down and your time was coming to an end, talk a little bit about that.
Well, our 2 years were up. Almost everybody left. Like Dennis said, Dennis
Yeah.
got married, so his tour was extended for a year. One other guy in the band, Bill Sagoni, got married. He's got extended
Right.
for a year. And I only had about 3 months left of my enlistment, so I ended up staying there too. But everybody else went to different places in the States.
We didn't all leave at once, it just,
Yeah,
at the time seemed like.
One thing we didn't
Tom
talk
Moore.
about that I'd like to talk about, we had a little special band over there that every time the 7th Fleet Band came in, a lot of their musicians were, their favorite band was Maynard Ferguson, and a lot of our guys also. And every time they came in, we'd have some rehearsals there in the band room for this Maynard band. And it was kind of a small band, you know, 3 trumpets, 2 bones, 4 saxes, rhythm section. John did all the writing for it, and Bob Holt. And such a fun band to be in, because everybody was just wailing in that band. And we just wanted to practice with the band. It was set up as a practice band, and we ended up though playing 3 gigs, and that was on New Year's Eve.
New Year's Eve. We told him about this band, and that's how that got started. He said, you know, and his wife was a kind of semi-well-known singer, Ayako Hosokawa, who's still well-known in Japan. She does jazz festivals in Japan. And he said, why don't we get your band to come down to the PO Club and do a show, and you can back up my wife. So that's what we did. That's how we got the job. And then Bob and I had written these charts like there was no tomorrow. Every one of them was real fast and real high. And it was okay if you only rehearsed for an hour, and Callahan would be able to play, and, you know, it would be okay. So then we were so successful on that first show that they said, well, we ought to do this for New Year's Eve, but this time we'll have you play 3 shows. You'll do one at the EM Club, and then we'll take you by bus, and we'll take you over to the PO Club, and you'll do it there, and then you'll go back to the EM Club and do a late show in the top 3 club, which was kind of a Chiefs Club actually at the EM Club. Okay, so we're going to do this. And it turned out that Callahan had the flu, who was our lead trumpet player, if you guys even remember this. And so we do the first show, and that's okay, but now the chops are starting to wear down because everything was like, and Larry's screeching away, and he had the flu. So we did the first show, and then we did the second show, and by the third show, the flu had really kicked in. And the very last song we played probably had a high E or an F sharp on the end of it, and Callahan played this note and immediately soiled his skivvies, you know, because he had the flu.
So this won't end the way that I wanted it to, but hey, I got to tell you guys, this is dynamite, and we'll get an appropriate ending on it, because Mike can do wonders with these things.
Yeah.
Really.
Thank you so much.
Hey,
Thank you for the work you're doing.
I'm just so happy that
I love these guys.
that we could get this going. I understand that. Yeah. This is neat. Never lose sight of each other, because hey, that only happens once in your life, man. You know.
A lot of the guys that don't come here,
yeah.
a lot of the guys that don't come here, we're still communicating with them. You know?
Sure.
So,
Well, that's true.
We'll be able to see this next
Hopefully,
reunion.
hopefully that will be right.